Hi, welcome to Romance Writers Therapy. We're romance writers and we think we need therapy. Today we have a special guest, Marty's friend, Amanda Wilson, who is also a romance writer, and she's here to answer some of our questions.
She writes under the pen name A.B. Wilson.
Okay, well, maybe I should have known that. I'm sorry. You want me to do that again?
Yeah, maybe we should.
No, that's cool because, honestly, across all my website and all that stuff, it's pretty clear. Like, yeah, I publish under A.B. Wilson, but you get to my website or my socials, you're like, oh, it's Amanda. Huh, that's what the A is for.
Okay, so it's not like a big secret because I've had to cut out the number of times that I've said Marty's name.
Oh.
No, it's not a big secret. It's definitely a pen name. Maybe I'll actually end up publishing under Amanda Wilson at some point. So we'll see.
So, Amanda, can you tell us, you work with a small publisher?
I
or
do.
A publisher. Yes. Will you tell us your publisher's name and how you got with them?
Yeah, so I work with the small press, Totally Bound. It's a division of the Totally Entwined group, and they are a publishing company out of the UK. Totally Bound is known for erotic romance. So they have, if you go on their websites, like they have a very specific and multifaceted Steam rating system. So
that's cool.
yeah, you're really going to figure out what you like and what you don't like off of it. It's very serious business on there. And I ended up with them because a couple of reasons, really. I mean, when I first started writing, I thought like I really wanted to do indie pub. Honestly, that's what I read mostly. I mostly read indie romance. I read trad romance as well, but for the most part, I do read a lot of indie, and that's kind of how I got into the genre. And I wrote this book. It ended up being called The Roll. It's a celeb romance, and I found a critique partner because I was like, you know what, somebody else should read this besides me. And this person was like, so are you going to query this? And I was like, what is this querying you speak of? And she kind of walked me through the whole, how do you publish traditionally? And so from there, I started sending the book out to agents and stuff, and it got some interest, but I think at that point the market was really flooded with celeb romances and stuff, and so really didn't go anywhere. And I was just kind of idly looking through all of these different Twitter pitch contests and stuff, and I found this press, Totally Bound. I noticed a few other authors that I had started talking to on social media were publishing with them, and they had an open submission call out for billionaire celebrities and athletes. And at that point, the book that I had written, it's a celeb romance, like I said, but the male main character actually has two brothers. And so I had been thinking for a while, like, oh, I'm going to write a book for each of these guys, and one was an athlete. And the other, I'm like, well, he's a business dude, he makes some money, but like, yeah, we'll call him a billionaire. So I submitted the celeb romance manuscript and then told them I was thinking about it as a series, and they accepted the book. They contracted it, and yeah, it came out in August. And the follow-up book to that about one of the brothers who's a soccer player is coming out in March. And the third one, billionaire guy, like I really am not quite sure yet what's happening with him, but at some point there will be a billionaire.
So that's the Schellenberg Brothers series? Yeah. And The Roll is out.
Yeah, The Roll is out. It came out in August, and the one that's coming out in March is called The Game. See, I'm super creative with my titles.
Is the vintage the third fella?
That's what I'm thinking at this point.
I like I like that. Like, I like the symmetry a lot. I like the simplicity. And you say you're not like creative with your titles, but I was just telling you I liked one of your other works in progress's title. So it's just the title that fit these three books.
Yeah. It's pretty stark. It's pretty simple. I think for these books in particular, it's really fitting. Like it's a group of German brothers. They're not like Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger talking, but like they tend to be more spare anyways in how they communicate. So it works for them.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I've read the first one. Well, most of the first one. I haven't finished it because my focus has been abysmal. lately. I have so many begun and not ended books at this point. But that's a really good point, is like it's very close to how they communicate. And that was one of my favorite things in reading it, is like there's these moments where like he slips into German and she like doesn't know what he's saying. And I love that as a reader. Like those little moments where like there's just a cultural deviation or
and they just roll with it.
Yeah.
And then the love interest is like, hee, I'm saying sweet things to you and you have no idea. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so in love with it. Ooh.
I love it when one of them is still under the impression that like you absolutely hate me, but then the other's like calling them darling.
Oh my God.
Absolutely no idea.
My heart cannot handle even like the suggestion. Like I am melting.
Oh my God. Mariana Zapata has the book Culty, which is also a soccer player book, ironically. But yeah, that it's super cute. He calls her like, he calls her Snail. Which is basically a term of endearment in whatever language it is. And like honestly, I went online to figure out what does this even mean, because she's great and doesn't include like the translation. And she has like a whole shop like on Threadless or something where you can buy like snail shirts and stuff. It's super cute.
So cute.
Oh my God.
She's like, he hates me.
That is
He hates
so
me.
cute. So what got you started writing romance?
I think I started writing romance for a few reasons. One is by day, I am an academic archivist at a university, and so for work, it's a tenure track job. So you do, like you have to, it's publish or perish, and I write a lot of very dry academic articles under a different name, and it just got to the point where like I need to write something else, and I was kind of at that point I was like on a on again off again romance reading binge, and I was back on, and I was like, you know what, I want to do this. I'm going to give this a shot. Like I've never really written fiction before. I'm just going to go for it, and like I need something creative to do, and I can't imagine writing any other genre because I love this genre so much. So
I love romance. Yeah.
It is. It's so wonderful. And, like I've had an almost finished draft done before the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, it was just like, well, I've got more time now, because it's weird. You can't be really a librarian or an archivist away from the library and the archives. It's a lot harder. So I had more time, and I could really focus on becoming a better writer, and just really doing the things that I needed to get to up my game. And so it's I mean, I can't imagine writing anything else. And now when I try to write one of those boring academic articles, I'm like, oh, just kiss already. Wait, there's no kissing in archives. It sucks.
That would be so hard to go back writing that dry, because it's hard even as a reader to go from reading romance to reading something that's dry and just being like, why aren't there any longing stares? Where are my longing stares? This is all I want. So
like kind of a deviation. What got you into academic archiving?
I know it's weird. I guess for like it's so, I don't know. I've had a very twisty career. When I graduated undergrad, it was like with environmental science was my major. And so I went to DC and I worked for Ralph Nader for a couple of years until I realized like, oh, running Ralph Nader's hemp legalization campaign is not enough. It's not going to give me enough money to survive in DC.
Yeah.
So I started working for a consulting company, which was kind of an about face. And then my now husband, we started dating back in college, and he went to business school in Georgetown. And when he finished, he's like, I got a shitload of loans. I need to find a job so I can start paying those back. And I'm like, yeah, that would be good. So we've kind of ended up moving around for his work and stuff for the last probably like 10 years now. We did 5 years in Chicago and then 5 years here now in Minnesota. And actually it's more like 7 years now in Minnesota. God.
Time goes so fast.
It does. And so like, but when when you're stuck moving for your spouse or your partner, it's just like, oh, like you have to find something new. And when we were in Chicago, I was working for an ad agency, which is just as misogynistic as Mad Men might lead you to believe. And
that is so disappointing.
Yeah, it was was just excruciating working where and I don't know that all agencies are like this. It just happened to be the place that I was working. And I decided to go back to school, and I decided to do library school, thinking I would do like children's and young adult librarianship at a public library.
Okay.
And then I took a rare books class and ended up just really falling in love with that, and got into archives. And so when we moved to Minnesota, I was lucky enough to get a job at the university, and I've kind of been there ever since. So it's really just a lot of serendipity.
That's very cool. Yeah, and then like how your interests like led you here away from your expectation, Like, that's
Definitely.
very interesting. Amanda, you and I have talked a little bit about like your process, and I found it really interesting, and I think Kate will too. Will you kind of explain how you go about making your ideas a book?
Okay. Are you guys, I know you, Marty, are more of a pantser, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Kate, are you a pantser too?
More by force of nature than by intention. I always plot something out, and then I write a very detailed outline, and then I'm like kind of right off in a different direction.
That's like that you outline in negative, right? Like that's the stuff you're not going to write.
No, it's the stuff I want to write. This is the plan. We just don't adhere to plans here.
Oh my god, that just reminded me of that line from Tessa Dare when she's like, I don't draw the object, I draw the space around the object. You totally do it. You have been foiled.
Oh my god.
In an earlier episode, Kate was talking about how like that sentiment just like is the one thing that like Tessa Dare hasn't been absolutely 100% perfect on, in her opinion.
Oh yeah, no, it was so because we were having this conversation. Like, I don't like how a lot of artistry or creativity is depicted a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like writers always get portrayed as like deep, very cool,
which we obviously are. I mean,
come
sure.
on, come on.
Yeah, no, it's just
had to have at least one tangent.
No, it's good because like I feel like I am one of my critique partners is an insane pantser, and she just gets real mad at me when I talk about what I do. So I want to.
It is like I have thought about your process. Like it lingers in the back of my mind. So you have to like solve like the suspense I'm accidentally building. So
it's really not even that cool. It is so nerdy.
It is very cool.
Basically, I daydream a lot, and I have to have a full like formulated story kind of end to end, at least in my head, before I can even start outlining. And then I usually take like 3 months to outline a book. I use different plotting software. I mean, Trello is a project management software. It's free, and I use that and set up a board for each book that I'm doing. And then what you can do within that is you create like basically stacks of index cards for each one. And so I do like a 4-act structure. And then I do little index cards that basically I start with an index card for each like romancing the beat, each romance beat. And then eventually I'll add more cards so that I end up with like a chapter by chapter outline with like, like 100 to 200 words for each card. And then once I get the first act done and at least the beats set up for the rest of the book, I'll write the first act, which usually takes you up to like the meet cute, and maybe and a little bit past the meet cute. And then I'll send that out to people and critique partners and stuff and be like, green light this or don't. Like, is this terrible? Or should I keep going? And then same thing for Act 2, Act 3, and Act 4 before I start drafting the rest of it. It takes me like 3 months to set up a board, and by the end of it, I probably have about 200 words or more for each chapter, and then I draft kind of around those 200 or more words.
Yeah, that is so much more organized than the way my brain works.
Yeah,
right?
it got bad with this last book that I just finished drafting. Marty, the one that you're reading right now, I exported, oh God, I exported my Trello board to Excel, and then I added like word count trackers for each one. So like I write in dual POV. So I was trying to figure out like, am I spending too much time in the different characters' perspectives and wanting to make sure I don't alternate chapters strictly. for characters, because sometimes, like you'll have both characters speaking in one chapter, but you want to make sure like the word counts. I was down to like Excel and like, oh man, I figured if they came within 100 words of each other, it was good.
You are making sure that each POV has its equal screen time.
Yeah,
right?
Basically.
Because like I do dual POV as well, but I don't focus at all on whose voice is primary or equal or anything like that. There are times where I'm like, I've really been in this person's voice for like 2 or 3 chapters. It's time to switch. But I tend to really look at the point of view and whose point of view would be best to show this moment of the plot.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. Because when I'm looking at like I said, I know the whole story. I have to know the whole story from end to end before I can start even outlining it. And then the part of outlining it becomes figuring out which character has like the most to lose or the most to gain for each chapter or for each like romance beat, if you're going to fit like say 2 beats into a chapter or something like that, because they're not all going to hit the same. The book I think that the book I'm working on a new project right now, and I have the meet cute is from his perspective, and then her perspective is the following chapter, which is kind of like the aftermath of the meet cute, because it's a little bit dramatic, and it takes you into like that second chapter where they start kind of coming together, like gelling together. And there's kind of a rule, I guess, about plotting. I can't remember who told me this, but whoever has that chapter, the one that goes into that second act, that should be the person who's, I think, doing the grand gesture at the end. And I'm like, that is kind of brilliant.
I've seen that tweet.
Yeah, and it makes sense if you think about it, because they're dealing with like the aftermath, and so maybe they're also like a little bit maybe the more skeptical of the two, so they're going in there with more doubts and stuff potentially about a relationship. And in the case of this project that I'm working on, yeah, that's absolutely true. So she's going to be doing some big gesturing at the end. I don't know how yet or what that's going to look like, but yeah, it's weird when you map it out to that granular of a level, I think.
So when you're doing your academic papers that you have to publish, do you do a similar process, would you say, or is it like completely different in terms of mapping things out? Obviously, I don't expect an academic paper to have like the meet cute beats in it
in dual POV.
Yeah,
it would be interesting.
It would
that's
be
how
interesting.
we did our headings.
Oh my god, yeah. Like my citations were in, yeah. I do actually. I mean, for me, I'm not a very linear thinker. And so for me, writing academic articles, it would just take me a really, really long time. Because I'm not a super linear thinker. And so I kind of had to force myself to like, if I'm going to write for this in this very specific structured format, because that's what an article is. There are rules about how you write them. Then I need to get my shit together and figure out how to do that and how to corral my brain from tangenting off into all of a sudden, writing about a fan fiction about the X-Files or something like that, So I had to do that. It was kind of and I think in college when you're writing, I went to a pretty, I don't know, like pretty like liberal, a true liberal arts college where we were writing 30 to 50 page papers kind of regularly for different classes, including like science-based classes. In fact, like my microbiology final, I remember this so clearly because it was terrible, was 3 essay questions long. That was it. So like we were just like, it was just lots of writing. I had to kind of train my brain to be organized and stuff. I mean, I could fill up 30 to 50 pages of paper with junk, but like I found out you don't usually get good grades for that. And you usually don't get your articles picked up for publication if you do that kind of stuff too. So it started out as a coping mechanism for college, and then it became like, no, I have to do this. And at this point, when I started writing fiction and when I started writing romance, I went looking for all of the rule books. Like how do I do this? Otherwise, I kind of outlined the role, but I also pantsed it. And I think my first draft was like 150,000 words,
Wow.
And it had multiple subplots that are no longer in the book. And I was like, I'm in my 40s. I have a day job. I have a family. I can't take 2 years to write a book that's 150,000 words that I end up cutting down to 80, like over the course of another year and a half. Like
That's
if
fair.
if I want to publish, I need to figure out a process to be more efficient. And
Mm-hmm.
so the game is the first book that I really kind of established this ridiculously complicated process. But my first draft was super clean and
Sweet.
pretty much what I ended up subbing in. I think it ended at 82,000 words, and where it stands right now after a second round of developmental edits is 84,000 words.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, I'm sure there was quite a few differences, like taking away and adding sort of thing. But yeah, that is pretty
Yeah,
tight.
it's pretty tight. And I think my editor asked me to add one scene and kind of tweak a second. But that was really it. There's more that could
Wow.
be done with it. I mean, there's more that could be done with every book, but
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty, it works. This is what works for me. It's not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
going to work for everybody else. Again, I have a critique partner who is a total pantser, and I showed her my Trello board, like super proud.
Did
And
she feel so stressed? I feel
yeah,
stressed thinking about it.
and she's a lawyer too.
That is
Oh, she's
amazing.
like,
She's like, get that shit out of here. And then
you mean you're giving me extra homework?
I
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
And then I showed
Where
her, I'm
is
like,
the
no,
fun?
look, you can export this to Excel and add like word trackers that automatically calculate for you, and then you can
Oh
highlight.
my god.
She's like, please stop.
See, there's so much
Please
passion in your voice
stop.
when you say export to Excel, and I'm like,
I'm giving you hives, aren't I? It's like,
oh no.
Yeah, because
I'm
like
giving
this is the
myself hives.
exact opposite like process to like my writing process, which is like I have this weird feeling, thought, essence.
Yeah, you're very.
Oh my
What
god.
was what we keep calling it? Discovery, right?
Yeah, that's what I like to call it as opposed to pantser, because I feel like pantser makes it sound like I'm not serious. And
Yep,
so
that's a good
I'm
point.
just like, I like to call it discovery writing. And yeah, so like I can't even name characters for like 500 words or more. It's more like 2,000 words. And so like I have to like write he, she, and just like spew ideas out there. And then, I mean, poor Kate gets to workshop a lot with me before I find a plot. And yeah, so I'll end up writing the first quarter 3 times or
Well,
so,
so, like-
before I have like a plot.
Thing you do that gives me hives is you do so much in the way of rewrites. You go, oh, I'll just rewrite a chapter. I will scrap an entire chapter and I'll rewrite it. I'm
Yeah.
like, who are you? What are you?
Okay,
No.
okay. But then poor Kate, there's an idea that she's been talking about, a book that she's been wondering what to do with. And I'm like, I think you should just totally rewrite it. Like, just start at word
and
count
then
0.
I'm sitting here like, it's like you suggested to me to jump off a cliff. I was like,
know.
what?
And doesn't
That's insane. Why would I rewrite an entire book when I have it sitting right here?
yeah,
Look,
you're
I'm
like,
saying
I
you
am
can take
insulted.
scenery and stuff. I am what?
I am insulted.
Well, I haven't read it. She hasn't shown me any of it. So, like, I'm sure something that Kate does is, like, her perception tends to be harsher on, like, her writing than reality is, right? So I'm...
I think it's realistic.
I know you do, but you're wrong. So like I'm sure it's much closer to being more on like the tone and like being a book that you want or that I would like to read than you give it credit for. But every time you talk about it, you have so much passion about it. And you're always like bogged down with the editing process. And it's like, okay, well, you know the plot, you know the characters, just rewrite it. Like, just steal the scenery and rewrite everything else.
I had someone suggest to me, well, if the mermaid part is what's giving you trouble, just remove the mermaid aspect. And
do
and I
not.
took that seriously. I was like, you know what? You're right. I could do that. I could go through this whole thing and just tear that out.
But like, that's like I love that part. So it's
I
up
know.
to you.
That's why it ended up staying. And I was like, no, actually, this is the entire conceit of the story.
Yeah,
What
that
am
was
I
my
doing?
thought.
But you can absolutely convince me, like, oh, that's your main plot? You should get rid of it. Be like, yeah,
You're
that
right.
sounds about right.
My advice from Kate is always there needs to be more tension. Like there needs to be more, which is funny because I write angst all of the time, like constantly. Everyone is in turmoil, but apparently over very small things. So my advice from Kate is always
there's a lot of feelings of tension.
There's a lot of feelings
but
of
the
tension.
plot isn't holding it.
Yeah. So that's what the rewrite always ends up being, is like, okay, you wrote this first quarter, and now what if instead of like accidentally fake dating, what happens if they're fake married? Like, and so yeah, that's how everything gets better for me, is talking to Kate and our other critique partners.
Yeah, critique partners are hugely
Everything,
important.
dude. Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
like I'm in a writer's workshop, and like this whole suggestion has been like, okay, who's at the beginning of a project? It's like, okay, there's a bunch of us, write a blurb, or our leader, the leader of the workshop would be like, write a query for this idea. And I had never done
Before
that.
it even exists?
Yeah, before it even exists, before the book exists. If you have an idea of the plot or you have an idea of the book, try to write it instead of like even a summary or a synopsis, write it as a query. And I did that for the book that Marty's reading right now, and it was the first time I'd ever done it, and I was like, oh my god, this like works. Like,
oh my gosh,
yeah,
I was
no,
so annoyed about that too. I was like
all
so
about
annoyed.
it.
Because in a query letter, you know, like you're introducing your characters, you're introducing the stakes and the tension,
Oh,
and
absolutely. It's a very condensed outline of just all the raw ingredients you need.
yeah,
And it
exactly.
gives you such a point of direction.
Well, I could see that really working for you, Kate, because like Kate she comes up with a title and then she thinks of a plot that works with that title. So that's why her titles are freaking wonderful.
You gotta stop giving away my methods.
Okay, no one else can do that, Kate. No one else can do that.
It definitely starts really with just thinking of a really dumb joke, and then you get the title.
Oh man, I love that.
That's wild. I love that too. I know
I
someone
know.
who does like the Twitter pitches, like the pitmad contest and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But yours are really good.
She'd rather, instead of a query, she'd rather write a Twitter pitch. I'm like, oh, ugh, I'm terrible at those. Like, just bad.
I disagree. Listen to you ladies, not giving yourselves credit. Okay, I disagree. Okay.
Realistic.
No. Kate, hear this pitch, okay? Okay. I'm going to butcher it, but imagine that it's actually like Twitter size and like well thought out. So
Okay, I'm picturing it perfectly.
fainting couch plus Chris Evans plus Indiana Jones with sex. Do you want to read that?
Is it Chris Evans is playing Indiana Jones? Like
No, but like that's the character like
or like Chris
inspiration.
Evans and Indiana Jones.
Those
are
are my comps. It was Chris Evans on a fainting couch meets Indiana Jones with banging.
Yeah.
And it was just like pure vibes. Just pure vibes. That one did not do well.
I'm shocked because I read that and I was like, I must read this book. Like, I cannot survive without reading this book.
It was real. This last Pitmad was real weird. If you guys participated in it, I feel like the ones that got likes were ones that had very, very standard book by book X book comps. Whereas it felt like in previous rounds of Pitmad over the last, say, like year, like the vibes ones, like Chris Evans on a fainting couch, like those were doing really well. Maybe back in even last spring. Like as well as like the am I the asshole structured pitches.
I feel like every Pitmad,
keep going.
Thing. Every time there's a Pitmad contest or something like, there's kind of like the meme or the fad that like everyone kind of goes by this format, like that am I the asshole format.
Yep.
3 things about this character XXX, and I feel like that it's popular for that round only, and then when you want to try to like continue that, hype for the next round, it's already gone.
Oh, for sure.
And everyone's already doing something different.
I mean, there's so many reasons I would be terrible at that, but like that is definitely one of them. That like I wouldn't see the trend until it was done. Does that make, like, I'd be like, oh, okay, so this is how we do it, and then I do it the next time and be like, this is not how anyone else is doing it anymore. Like,
yeah, and it's weird because it kind of came full circle. Like when I started like curving on the Twitter pitch contests, like they were just like book times book, and then like 3 sentences, and just really straightforward, classic pitch, and that's kind of that's what really did well in December. In September and in March, it was completely different. Like, oh my God, if you threw a Ted Lasso like reference in there, you were like hundreds of hearts from agents and editors and all sorts of stuff. It was
because Ted Lasso had just dropped a season.
I know, it was unreal.
Everyone was very excited. I haven't watched it, so I don't understand all the excitement, but people really love that show. It's like Schitt's Creek. Like I was again so late to it. We still haven't finished it. We've been watching an episode or here or there for like a year and a half, like since the pandemic. Yeah. So.
I know.
I do want to steer us back to the questions.
I was gonna be like, hey, how about favorite tropes? Well, and I don't think we have to answer all of the like discussion questions, ideas.
Oh, I was gonna say let's do them rapid fire.
Oh, do you want to?
See how fast you can possibly answer this, and then maybe get some of your own answers wrong.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do that.
Because you're just so flustered and like you have to answer it so quickly, you give us all the wrong answers.
Sounds good. This will be like pure id. Okay.
Okay. All right, Kate, go.
Okay, favorite tropes.
To read enemies to lovers and to write friends to lovers, because I just can't bear having people mad at each other for too long.
I want to prolong them hating each other as long as possible.
I wrote the game as an enemies to lovers, and I swear to God, my schizophrenics were like, you need to stop this. They don't hate each other enough.
Most challenging elements or scenes to write.
I think sex scenes are probably the most challenging because it's a balance of, mechanics and spatial happenings and emotions and
emotional happenings.
Yeah, and that
happenings.
Exactly.
Interior sensations.
Yep. So like balancing all of that is a little bit of a minefield.
And then make it sexy.
Yes.
Because God, a lot of people do all those and then they forget to make it sexy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is
the driest.
I don't like it.
This is Sahara.
This is making the literature's worst sex scene awards here.
Like there's going to be chafing.
Ew. All right, most delightful element or scenes to write.
I think meeting scenes. So like or reunion scenes, like like, oh my God, you just went
big emotional.
Yeah, or it doesn't even have to be. Like I have a scene that I wrote that I'm really, really excited about, where the two characters, like, they'd just gone to work and they came home and they were in that that honeymoon phase of their relationship, and they're like, I'm just so happy to see you. And I was like, oh, that was one of my favorite scenes to write.
All right, and what's your favorite line you've ever written?
I'm really glad you prepared me with that question because I had to look it up.
I went through and found a couple too, so it was kind of fun. It was a fun little mining expedition.
It was. I actually there's stuff I like in all of the projects that I've written, but the one that I have that I just finished, The Love and Other Primary Sources, that is the one probably that I'm the most proud of. It's a little paragraph. Anyway, she held out a hand and he clasped it, feeling that thrill of recognition and excitement that had always heralded her touch. He could pick her out blindfolded in a crowd of thousands, the way her energy seemed to call out to him, making his skin hum with awareness. The quiet thrum of I like you passed whisper quiet across the synapses of nerves when she was nearby. That's my favorite line. I'm real proud of that one.
So cute.
I love the concept of the I know you blind.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah,
when the whispered I like you, like, oh, that is so cute.
I don't know, it's weird when you're editing your own work and you come across like little lines and like scenes like that, and you're just like, I don't know where that came from, but I like that, and I'd like to do that more often.
I love that feeling. Yeah. I sent, because I had paused on my work in progress to do a bunch of editing. When I came back to it, I sent Kate a line that was like that too, where it was just like, I was just reading through and I'm like, I didn't recall any of this, but I'm so happy. Like it was just a nice little nugget.
I know. I think as writers, as creatives, we get real bogged down in hating everything and just never being satisfied with our work. And you have to remember these little lines and these little moments. You know, maybe it's just a conversation with your critique partner. You know, someone in your workshop is like, oh, I really liked X character or whatever. You know, like we need to remember those. I feel like I need to journal out as a reminder when I'm feeling like crap about my writing and myself.
Yeah,
you know?
that like little moment of motivation. Well, and like that's one of the hard things about getting better at writing is learning how to be critical of yourself. And so it makes the process of writing harder, and it makes it harder to have that dessert writing, you know, because you're just you're always thinking forward and backwards, and it's really hard just to be like, hey, I am good at this, even when I'm looking at myself all cross-eyed.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, imposter syndrome is real, and I don't know. I don't think there's a single writer alive who doesn't talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think you can go down a rabbit hole pretty easily on trying to get better and psyching yourself out. And it's such a fine balance of like putting yourself out there and holding yourself back too.
Ugh. Okay, we should try to like land on a happier note than like, all right, guys, enjoy your life.
Yeah. Hey,
all right, guys. I hope you're so excited about writing.
Yeah. Do you feel light and happy now?
Do you feel like
if you could collaborate with anyone, who would it be?
I
like your dream author?
Oh man,
yeah.
Your favorite author,
or
like
just like who would you collaborate with?
Like,
okay, because I would say like Roxy Noir and I could collaborate pretty well without either of our voices being too affected. So that's how I would answer that question.
I think it would be one of or two of my writing friends right now, actually, and not any big authors. Although I really wish I could write as like in such a, I'm not funny enough to write like Pippa Grant, say, but I really wish I could be, so I could write with her, you know, but I'm not that funny. But a couple of friends and I are working on ideas for like a Formula One romance series. So, but
you said that, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's going to be great.
I am so excited about that.
Each of us would write like one full book though. So I honestly can't imagine collaborating with somebody on a book. I can imagine doing it in a series, but I mean, I don't know how authors who do collabs like so seamlessly, like Christina Loren and stuff. Like, wow, that's such a skill.
Right? Kate and I have tried.
I don't know if we gave that like a serious try. I think we had an idea that we wanted to kick around. But
yeah.
Ooh, what was it?
We weren't really.
It's been a long time ago.
So this girl is moving into, she's apartment sitting for her cousin, and she falls in love with the guy next door who's in a band
because she hears him playing music
and he writes songs about her, like the mystery girl next door, but she's definitely got the wrong, like she put the wrong face to the wrong voice.
Yeah, so like she
keeps trying to date the wrong guy.
And meanwhile he's like had insta love with her like real fast.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then another friend and I have talked a little bit about collaborating where she would write the first draft and then I would take it from there because editing's kind of great. I don't know what will happen there.
I don't know. I feel like if I had to do that with someone, I would get so anal over like, you're not allowed to touch this though.
I think I would too.
You know?
Because like
I would get very like, no, this is actually mine, give it back.
Yeah. I would too.
But I also hate editing so much, I might consider it.
I am very, because like that's something like if she and I do actually step forward on doing this, like I'm gonna be like, dude, nothing's sacred to me. Like I will fully change any scene, I will just wipe it clean. Like
I'm
nothing
change
is
your
sacred.
characters' names because fuck you.
Yeah, no, okay, so I can't write with you, Marty. I'm sorry.
I know. It's okay. I am like, yeah, well, I'm like this with my own writing, though. Like, I'm editing Banded Together, which needs huge rewrites. Like, I'm fully changing the plot. Characters are going away. I'm on chapter 3, and I've, like, officially cut 2 chapters already. Like, they just don't exist anymore. Like, just nothing's sacred to me. Anything can go. I have terrified you.
Yes, you have. I'm like, no. I don't know. That's yeah.
Is that happy enough note for you, Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Just me with an axe.
Marty taking over your questions. I was talking to Amanda.
Oh, other Marty. Oh, other Amanda. You can keep my name in there. It's fine. It doesn't bother me.
No, I was talking to the another Amanda.
I know.
All right, who's on first? What's on second?
Exactly.
I don't know. There's a romance novel on third for some reason.
Probably.
And we're sliding home.
Oh.
Into the game. I'm sorry.
Look at you
I want baseball. I don't know soccer.
It's okay. You just nailed it.
You did too.
Okay, we're going to call that.
So Amanda, when is the game out?
The game will be out on March 1st, but you'll be able to pre-order it starting January 21st. There's going to be a big kind of announcement on Twitter and Instagram through Frolic. There's going to be a little bit of a column, and Syl, the Book Voyagers, is going to be doing a cover reveal. So, and at the time that I think that goes live, you'll also be able to get the roll on discount. Pretty steep discount too. So I'm going to be announcing both of those things probably in the next couple of days. I'm really excited.
Yay!
Yeah. Well, we'll be sure to pre-order it.
I feel like I didn't let you, like, we know it's about a soccer guy. We know that he is brothers with a celeb actor and it's enemies to lovers. Is there anything else you kind of want to hook?
It's a fake engagement. So kind of like the brief rundown on it is, Maddie is the youngest brother of Marcus, who is the main character in the role. And he is a soccer player who's kind of always been a sort of a playboy and kind of like the life of, he's like the frat guy he's like the dude at a frat party who like always had his tie around his head, like the earliest at the frat formals, and was always challenging everybody else to drinking contests. That is Maddie, but he is a secret softie underneath, and he gets fired from a team for some silly reason, and a woman who's a player on the women's team in the club also gets fired, and they decide to stage like a whole fake relationship so that he can get his next job. There's of course something romance reason-y about this, like it's a morality clause in the contract or something. And so they end up moving to Chicago in this fake engagement, and the book is just kind of about how they come together. And I think more than that, though, it's about defining who you are by yourself as opposed to letting other people kind of define you for like a brand. Because they're both athletes, but she's ready to move on from her professional career, and he is not ready to move away from the brand, this kind of party dude brand that's been created for him, where she's like, nope, I'm serious and it's time to move on and grow up. And he's like, why? So that's the intention. There's the tension for you right there. But like, he's my favorite character I've ever written, without a doubt. Like, I love this guy. I love him so much. I'm reading it right now for editing, and it's just like, oh, you big dumb himbo athlete. I love you so much.
Aw.
He's just so sweet. He's like this big golden retriever who is also the frat boy with a tie around his head, apparently. So.
I love a golden retriever energy.
Oh god, he's so silly. I love this guy. It is also like the filthiest book I've ever written.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I really stretched myself there.
I really stretched. So where can people find you on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Tats and Romance, TATSANDROMANCE, and then I'm on Facebook too, but I'm barely on Facebook, but it's under my pen name of A.B. Wilson. And I have a website. It's A.B. Wilson Writes. And anyone who signs up for my newsletter gets usually gets free dirty pictures and sometimes cute pictures of my pets.
And your website is so cute. It's really
thank
pretty.
You.
So, Kate, should I tell everybody where we're at and all of that?
Yeah, you're doing the outros. I'm doing the intros.
That's right.
It's cemented now.
Mom said.
Upon my mom's request. She's like, I don't want to hear your voice first. She didn't say that at all.
I'm glad that I'm your mom's new favorite daughter.
Yeah. There's competition with my other friends too, so.
Oh, okay. Well,
she wouldn't replace me, but she would totally take you on. So.
Just knocking you down some pegs. That's all I want.
Honestly, like, I could use it. I have such an ingrained like confidence. So
You do.
I do.
All right.
I know. I'm adorbs. So you can find Kate on Instagram and Twitter at by Kate Prior. You can find me at Marty Vee author on Instagram and TikTok, and on Twitter I'm at author Marty Vee because I just like to be challenging apparently.
You can change it, right?
Don't even say such nonsense to me. I can just change it.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
You can change your username to your handle to whatever you want, as long as it isn't taken. We'll do this after. Okay.
And this has been an episode of Romance Writers Therapy. We are so glad that A.B. Wilson was able to join us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for chatting.